It all began with a powerful story. It was a story of resilience, of Black excellence, of a community's dream to rebuild what was so violently taken away. In 2018, the Tulsa Real Estate Fund launched, invoking the sacred name of Greenwood, the historic Black Wall Street. It promised to channel the spirit of those pioneers into modern-day wealth creation for the community. The idea resonated deeply, and money poured in from thousands of hopeful people. They were not just investing in property, they were investing in a vision of economic justice and empowerment. This was meant to be a new chapter in a long and important history. But a promise, no matter how beautiful, must be built on a solid foundation. Fast forward to 2024, and the narrative has shifted dramatically. The dream feels deferred, if not broken. The Tulsa Real Estate Fund, once a beacon of hope, is now reportedly entangled in bankruptcy proceedings. The fund that started with millions in investor capital is now facing questions about its solvency and management. The story is no longer just about building a future. It has become a cautionary tale about what can happen when a powerful vision collides with serious financial and legal challenges. The community that once celebrated its launch now watches with concern, seeking answers and understanding. The journey from that hopeful launch to the current state of uncertainty is filled with pivotal moments. It involves significant amounts of money raised, major property acquisitions, and eventually, public disputes. It is a story that has unfolded in the public eye, on social media, in news reports, and ultimately, in legal filings. For the thousands of small investors who put their faith and their hard-earned money into this project, the stakes are incredibly high. They are left wondering what happened to the promise, what happened to the money, and what will become of the legacy the fund claimed to honor. This timeline is not just about one fund or one man. It is about the larger quest for economic self-determination within the Black community. It forces us to ask difficult questions about trust, transparency, and accountability. As we trace the steps from its celebrated beginning to its troubled present, we must do so with a calm and fair mind. The goal is not to cast blame without evidence, but to understand the facts as they have been reported. To understand the power of the Tulsa Real Estate Fund's appeal, you must first understand the sacred history of its namesake. The fund was named to honor the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma. This was not just any neighborhood. It was a symbol of Black prosperity and self-sufficiency in the early 20th century. Known as Black Wall Street, Greenwood was a thriving, self-contained economic hub. Hundreds of Black-owned businesses, homes, schools, and hospitals. It was a testament to what a community could build for itself. This was a place of pride, a beacon of what was possible. The story of Greenwood, however, is also a story of immense tragedy. In 1921, this prosperous community was destroyed. A white mob, incited by racial hatred, descended upon Greenwood, burning more than 35 square blocks to the ground. They destroyed over 2,000 homes and businesses, and hundreds of African Americans were murdered in one of the worst acts of racial violence in American history. The physical destruction was nearly total, and the emotional and economic devastation was immeasurable. Yet, the spirit of Greenwood was not so easily broken. By 1925, Black Wall Street was rising from the ashes, and by the 1940s, it had once again reached a peak of economic strength. However, this second wave of prosperity was eventually undermined by discriminatory Jim Crow laws and urban renewal projects that saw a highway built through the district. This history is why the name Greenwood carries so much weight. It represents both the pinnacle of Black economic achievement and the devastating impact of racial and systemic injustice. When the Tulsa Real Estate Fund opened its doors to investors in June 2018, the response was immediate and overwhelming. It was positioned as the first 100% Black-owned real estate crowdfunding platform, a modern tool designed to fulfill an old dream. The message was simple and powerful. Pool your money together to buy back the block, to invest in urban communities, and to build generational wealth. This was an opportunity for ordinary people, not just accredited high-net-worth individuals, to become stakeholders in real estate. The fund used a Regulation A+ offering, which allows companies to raise money from the general public. According to a press release from the time, the fund raised an incredible $8 million in its very first weekend. This was not just a successful launch, it was a phenomenon. Public discussions indicate the total eventually exceeded $11.7 million from more than 15,000 investors. They were drawn in by the charismatic leadership of Jay Morrison and the promise of creating a collective economic force for good. The fund had the resources to begin acquiring properties and putting its plan into action. People were proud to call themselves investors. They felt like partners in a movement that was finally turning the tide on economic inequality. For any investment fund, the true measure of health lies in its financial statements. While the initial fundraising was a resounding success, a different story began to emerge as observers and investors looked more closely at the numbers. The excitement of the launch eventually gave way to serious questions about the fund's financial stability and management. The flow of information became less clear, and concerns started to mount. A major red flag was raised when financial statements revealed a shockingly low amount of cash on hand relative to the millions that had been raised. One report claimed the fund had only about $15,000 in cash and assets. It begged the question, where did all the money go? The fund had expenses, including management fees, property maintenance, and other operational costs. But the apparent depletion of capital raised serious questions about the model and spending. Investors worried the fund was not generating enough income to cover expenses, let alone provide returns. A lack of clear, consistent, detailed reporting eroded trust, the most critical asset for any fund manager. Hope turned to suspicion and frustration as thousands wondered if their investment was disappearing with little explanation. At the heart of the Tulsa Real Estate Fund's portfolio was a significant and highly visible asset, a large commercial property in East Point, Georgia, known as the Legacy Center, or the Black House. This was more than just a building. It was meant to be a physical manifestation of the fund's mission. The sprawling 31,000 square foot facility was designed to be a hub for Black creativity and entrepreneurship. It boasted about 20,000 square feet of production and event space. Another 10,000 square feet were modern office suites. It was the fund's crown jewel, a tangible symbol of progress. The news that this flagship property was being put up for sale sent shockwaves through the investor community. In early 2024, the Legacy Center was publicly listed on the market. The sale was not framed as a profit-taking strategy. Instead, it was presented as a necessary step amid mounting financial pressures. For many, seeing the sign on the Black House was a clear signal the fund was in serious trouble. Troubling reports then surfaced about the property's financial dealings. It was alleged that Jay Morrison had refinanced the building. One report said $1.5 million was withdrawn, allegedly to cover management fees and operational losses. If true, equity from the main asset covered shortfalls rather than acquiring new assets or distributing profits. The decision to sell plus the alleged equity withdrawal marked a critical turning point. Section 6. Voices of Dissent. Investors demand accountability. As the fund's problems became more apparent, investors who had once been its biggest cheerleaders began to speak out. A key figure was Julian Gordon, identified as the top investor in the fund, having contributed a reported $40,000. He expressed profound disappointment with the fund's performance and Jay Morrison's leadership, demanding transparency and a change of course. He publicly called for the fund to be liquidated, selling all assets including the Legacy Center and returning whatever capital remained. Financial professionals like Jason Thornton, CFP, echoed the need to pay back investors before bankruptcy. Loss of faith intensified. Critics cited alleged mismanagement, lack of transparency, and the sale as signs of failure. Priorities shifted to damage control and retrieving funds before legal and bankruptcy costs consumed value. Public dissent from a major investor validated widespread concerns. Others felt empowered to demand answers. Calls for accountability became central to the story. Section 7. The weight of the law. Subpoenas and investigations. The growing chorus of complaints and red flags did not go unnoticed. The situation escalated when the parent company disclosed a federal investigation. According to an SEC filing, the company received a grand jury subpoena from the United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Georgia. This type of subpoena is used in criminal investigations. In addition, the company confirmed a civil subpoena from the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. An SEC subpoena meant regulators were formally investigating possible securities law violations, including misleading investors or mishandling funds. The company said both subpoenas sought documents and other information, and that it had engaged counsel to cooperate. These investigations added an enormous layer of gravity. Subpoenas from the DOJ and the SEC confirmed formal federal involvement. The company acknowledged uncertainty. The likelihood of an unfavorable outcome and the potential financial exposure were not determinable. The language signaled potential fines, penalties, or other consequences, further jeopardizing any remaining value. This was not Jay Morrison's first legal matter regarding finances. The filing noted that on March 1, 2019, he received a Chapter 7 discharge for a case originally filed in August 2016. Online, some claimed this would be a second bankruptcy. Combined with federal probes, many investors saw a troubling picture of instability and risk. Section 8. Community Crossroads. Reaction and Reproach. The reaction from the broader community was a mixture of anger, disappointment, and vigorous debate. For many, the news felt like a personal betrayal. Some posters called it a cash grab, others labeled it a scam from the beginning. The NFL Players Association reportedly cautioned members against investing, but reactions weren't one-sided. Some defended Jay Morrison and the vision, arguing building black-owned institutions is incredibly difficult. Supporters said pioneers face immense scrutiny. Critics said accountability was overdue. As activities crumbled, people noted a shift toward religious work, which some cynically framed as moving from real estate scams to church scams, fueling more distrust. The community stood at a crossroads, holding leaders accountable while preserving the dream of economic independence the Tulsa Fund promised. Section 9. Lessons from the Rubble. A path forward for investors. The story offers critical lessons for small investors and the community. A powerful mission and historic name are not substitutes for sound financial governance. Look beyond marketing. Demand clear, consistent, audited financial reporting. Do your homework. Who manages the fund? What is their track record and financial history? What are the fees? How is it structured? What protections exist? Read the fine print, heed professional warnings, and seek independent expert opinions. Charisma is not oversight. Build independent boards, regular third-party audits, and clear checks and balances from day one. That is how trust is built and maintained. The dream of community-owned assets and collective wealth building remains valid. The legacy of Black Wall Street is resilience. Don't stop trying. Try again. Smarter. Demand transparency, stronger governance, and more accountability.